one? Who's number one? Who's number one? From the Cinderella stories that gave us reasons to celebrate, to the worst coaches who just couldn't motivate, to the best masters where being great depended on how well you could concentrate. From the worst trades by GMs who just couldn't evaluate, to the best game sevens that made the hair in your arms percolate. The buzzer beaters that made you happy that you stayed up late. The most overplayed moments that weren't that great. The NFL draft bust that never quit it out the gate. The most outrageous characters that you just love to hate. If who's number one is the topic that you love to debate, then smile, because you no longer have to wait. You see, this is not a commercial. The show's already begun. So who's number one? Who's number one? Who's number one?
Welcome to Who's Number One. I'm Trey Wingo. Fact, the peach basket went up in 1891. The first ball had laces. Anyone 6 feet tall was considered a giant and automatically assigned the pivot. The shot of choice, you know, the two-handed set shot. A dunk, like Michael Jordan, did not exist. What would evolve into the NBA began in 1946 with the legendary teams like the Providence Steamrollers, the Chicago Stags, and of course, the St. Louis Bombers. Oh, and then the game changed. Did it change? 7-footers are everywhere and their game is dunkerific. In this edition of Who's Number One, ESPN Classic combs through pro basketball's storied past and its glittering present to rank the 20 best NBA teams of all time.
2020.
The opposition asked for their autographs after losing by 60. Such was the appeal of the team representing America in the 1992 Olympics, the first games open to the pros. The marquee was ablaze. MJ, Magic, Larry Legend, Sir Charles, and on and on.
The Dream Team in 92, the original, the best, the only, the first.
They were the epitome of playing the game correctly and playing the game well.
This was about those few moments where Michael would get a touch, and then Magic would get a touch, and then it would go to Larry, and you'd say, oh, okay, this is how sports is supposed to be.
Playing the Olympics was the ultimate, and playing with this group of guys that I played with was the best.
And we put on a show, and we let the world know that we were the best, and they appreciated that we beat them by 50 and 60 points a game.
Not so much whether they'll win, but by how much.
It was unbelievable, the attention that was paid to that team.
I didn't know how big the Dream Team phenomena was until we got there.
At the start of the game, they would come down, they'd pull you out of your line, take pictures. They were in all of us.
Michael fouled one guy. He was on the free throw line crying because he couldn't believe that Michael Jordan had just touched him.
The indelible image I take from the 1992 Olympics is flashbulbs. And it didn't stop. It was like a Beatles concert.
There'll be a lot of teams called the Dream Team, but there's only one real Dream Team. Let's get that straight.
1919.
They had Big E, Silky Elvin Hayes, and wide Wes Unseld, setter of punishing picks. They and the rest of the 1978 Bullets finished third in the East, but gelled at exactly the right moment to give the city of Washington its first title since the 1942 Redskins.
It was during that playoffs that might have coined the famous phrase, "It ain't over till the fat lady sings."
I thought they were a great team. I was impressed with Wes Unseld, a guy that had the impact of his size.
Built like a linebacker. He played center in the NBA at 6'5" and about 280.
Just a beast under the backboards, a beast down low.
And bodies would literally bounce off him.
It was a tough, basic, no-nonsense team. It was fascinating because it had personality dynamics between Wes Unseld, the ultimate unselfish team player, and Elvin Hayes, the ultimate selfish stat guy.
All these theories about team chemistry and loving each other, not true on that Bullets team.
But Wes knew that Elvin was a great, great player, so you had to do certain things to keep Elvin mentally in the game. You had to stroke his ego here and there just to get Elvin to play.
That was the team, 1978 Bullets. It ain't over till the fat lady sings, and you could look it up.
18.
There was a Cliff, Hagan, and a Slater, Martin, and an Easy Ed, as in Macaulay. But mostly there was Bob Pettit, the prototypical power forward. He scored 50 in the title clincher for the 1958 Hawks, who beat a Celtics team hobbled by injury to their intimidating center.
The 58 St. Louis Hawks were an excellent basketball team, and they deserved to have Bill Russell be injured.
When Russell got hurt, it was like, you know, the master is away from guarding everything, so now we can attack.
They had two great players in Bob Pettit and Cliff Hagan, and they played like champs.
Pettit was the real deal. 6'9", good build, fluid.
He was just smooth and had a great baseline shot.
Fabulous power forward who even today would still be an all-star. You had a really excellent team that was perennially blocked at the gate by the Celtics or Lakers. They finally got their due.
17. 17.
Legend has it that upon arrival in New York from his native Nigeria, Hakeem Olajuwon told the cab driver, "Houston, my man." From that point on, he did all the driving, steering the '94 Rockets to their first of 2 straight titles, even as television cut away for a different drive.
While it was different without Michael Jordan, we got to see truly one of the greats ever play at his best.
Hakeem Olajuwon is still one of the most graceful centers to ever play.
His combination of the power and the finesse, the quickness, the confidence.
It was basically the clash of these 2 great centers, all series long going back and forth, and this is going to be the tale of their careers.
The Knicks were right there, and they had it, and they thought they were going to win. They had no idea how much in reserve Hakeem had.
He just told them, in essence, follow me, guys, I'm going to take you there.
And the Rockets, they're coming right back. Kenny Smith and Sam Cassell, beautiful give-and-take basketball, fierce. And all of a sudden, this whole nother scenario comes into play.
We're looking at a picture of the vehicle. David, I don't know, can you
It's
tell
the
me?
juice. And they're chasing him down because he may or may not have murdered 2 people.
They cut away from the NBA Finals to go see O.J. Simpson? What is that all about?
This is the NBA Finals. How about a news flash? We'll keep you posted.
16.
Everything was funneled through Bill Walton, and the 1977 Trailblazers played share the ball. In the finals, they fought back from a 2-0 deficit to take 4 straight from the 76ers of Dr. J.
The 77 Trailblazers were really the dream of sort of an artist's vision of a basketball team.
They really played the right way. They could defend. They could beat you in a lot of different ways. They had everything and really, truly were a team.
And it was Bill Walton's great moment in the pros.
I remember that team well because I was a hardcore Dr. J fan. And they had the series. You know, they were up 2-0.
Basically, that was our first look at the dream team, that 76ers team, when they got beat by the quote-unquote team of Portland Trailblazers.
They're one of the hidden jewels in NBA history, one of the really good teams.
The spirit that lived in the Portland Trailblazers symbolized that entire love for team basketball.
Don't flinch, don't move an inch, don't even make a sound. We'll be back like center field at the Polo Grounds. Underdogs taking it all. Legends taking the fall. Heroes taking the ball. And history recording it all. Welcome back to Who's Number One.
15.
Well before their move to Los Angeles, the Lakers were powers. The 1953 team winning the second of 3 consecutive titles. They were led by the gentle giant George Mikan, the bespectacled center who was considered treetop tall in those days, with a bank shot you could take to the bank.
George Mikan was the first big man I had ever seen play basketball. He was just bigger than everybody.
We won 4 championships in 5 years. George, of course, was the guy that we went to, and he was our leader.
Big, broad shoulders. I used to practice. I used to watch him. I just see those shoulders move around.
All you had to do is just throw it over the heads of everybody, and Mikan would catch it just like that.
George Mikan meant a great deal to the NBA because it gave the NBA great credibility.
Wherever we played, the place was sold out, and that was because of George, who was Magic Johnson, Larry Bird, Michael Jordan rolled into one.
14.
Oscar Robertson was near career's end, while Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, then going by Lou Alcindor, had only just begun when they teamed to lift Milwaukee to its only NBA title. The 1971 Bucks went 12-2 in the postseason.
If you ever want to talk about one guy making a difference on a team, it's Oscar Robertson with that Bucks team.
He was a general on the floor. When Kareem wasn't scoring well, he took over.
My job was to get this guy in the game, get him some points, make our weakest link on the team stronger.
Oscar was so fundamentally sound and so smart that he was great for a young Lou Alcindor, and there was no stopping.
Nobody could stop that hook shot, that sky hook. Nobody. And he had that desire, that will to win. You could see that.
I always wondered why the combination of Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, Oscar Robertson, I didn't understand why they lost, ever.
13.
Detroit turned the lane into Bloody Nose Alley. Glorying in their bully boy image, the 90 Pistons won on effort and intimidation. Led to a second straight title by Isaiah Thomas. He of the choir boy face that masked a raging passion to win.
And that team was just stacked top to bottom with assassins.
We were very tough-nosed defensive guys.
Bill Laimbeer throwing bows and hitting threes.
And every day at practice, Chuck Daly just said, hey, here's the ball, play for your minutes.
Rick Mahorn throwing bodies, Dennis Rodman rebounding.
And guys would literally, we'd fight.
Some people have referred to it as thug ball, you know, beating you up.
Everyone talks about their identity as the bad boys, but the baddest boys is probably their backcourt.
Isaiah Thomas, to me, is the greatest 6-foot player or under to ever play.
You played those Pistons teams, you know you were going to get mugged. And he was like the leader of the pack.
He had this angelic image about him, a smile on his face, but at the same time, that smile could also very much be a stab in the back. That's the kind of competitor that he was.
Detroit is the city of champions again!
He came every night. The guy never disappointed you.
He was the one in my book that made that team go. This team was tough. They didn't take any crap from anybody.
12. Wow. 12.
In one of the most famous entrances in sports, Willis Reed limped like Ahab onto the court and scored New York's first 2 baskets in Game 7 of the 1970 finals. His inspired Knicks teammates, all-stars in their own right, ripped L.A. for the crown.
That NBA championship game was blacked out in New York. But on Long Island, if you shimmied your channel, you could get Channel 8 out of Connecticut. And we got the TV set right on 8, had a snowy picture, and watched Chris Schenkel and Jack Twyman in that opening, wondering, where's Willis? And here he comes now!
Those guys gave up for each other. They loved each other. They didn't care about individual achievements. It was all about the team.
We hear so much about Clyde Frazier. He was a great individual player, but he was more than that. For all his flamboyance and style and charisma off the court, he was a team player.
They played a beautiful game. They shared the basketball.
It just carved you up, and they complemented each other so well.
On any given night, you could have a different high scorer. Walt Frazier one night, Dick Barnett the next, Bill Bradley the next, Wall Street the next, Dave DeBush the next.
I don't think there's any question. No one will argue that that was the hittest team that ever won an NBA title.
This was a team that won 18 straight games, won in miraculous fashion, showed great courage. I mean, this was a movie script this season.
11.
This was the second of 3 straight titles for Michael and the Jordanaires in a run that reached 6 championships in 8 years. Michael Jordan was revealed as the Hoops Hope Diamond, flawless. Pitbull defenders, the 92 Bulls won 67 games.
One of the greatest things about Michael Jordan, I think, is that he was never satisfied. When they won that first title, he was thinking about the second one.
That just set him off. That was almost like a springboard. Once he won the first one, it just seemed to elevate him to want to win more.
It was tougher because everybody knew what was coming when they faced the Bulls, and they had to really pull it out, but they still won the games they had to win, mainly because they were.
He's the only player that I've ever seen that has everything that you need to be a great player, the best ever.
Michael could do whatever he wanted. Scottie Pippen was a stopper, but Horace was one who had to cover a lot of ground. He made them the defensive team they were, and believe it or not, that's where they won, was with their defense.
And now, your world champions, Chicago Bulls!
Thank God you drafted me instead of Portland.
That team really set the tone for the remaining championships because after that, they just had a swagger and an arrogance that just overwhelmed their opponents.
It's sit back and have a beer time. Relax in your chair time. We'll be right back, like your hairline.
Welcome back to Who's Number One. In this edition, we're counting down the 20 best NBA teams of all time. At the half, we offer a recap.
20.
The 1992 USA Olympic team.
19.
The 77-78 Washington Bullets.
18.
The 57-58 St. Louis Hawks.
17.
The 93-94 Houston Rockets.
16.
The 76-77 Portland Trail Blazers.
15.
The 1952-53 Minneapolis Lakers.
14.
The 1970-71 Milwaukee Bucks.
13.
The 89-90 Detroit Pistons.
12.
The 1969-70 New York Knicks.
11.
The 91-92 Chicago Bulls. 10 more teams to come, so let's get out on the fast break and find number one.
10.
Basketball in Boston. It's the NBA Finals with Bill Russell, number 6, brilliantly spearheading the Celtics before a capacity crowd of 14,000.
That distinctive parquet floor. Victory cigar smoke breathing smug Red Auerbach. Bill Russell dominating, Bob Cousy running the break. It was all so familiar. This 1961 edition of the Celtic Empire won its 3rd straight title en route to 11 championships in 13 seasons.
The beginning of the dynasty was Cousy. And then Russell came, so now you got the nucleus of a pretty good ball club.
The Celtics, during their dynasty years, had distinct teams. And the 60-61 team was the best of the early batch.
When you look at the roster, we had 8 guys on that team ended up in the Hall of Fame, and there should have been 9.
Boston Quintet dazzles the St. Louis Hawks with their fast break attack.
Bill Russell was in his prime. People of today have no idea how good he is. He's Ben Wallace. If Ben Wallace played about 8 inches taller. I don't mean in height, I mean in altitude.
If you go back and you watch the Celtics play, they overplayed the basketball the whole game. If a guy got by him, drives to the basket, Russell would almost always block the shot and catch the ball himself and throw the ball to someone to start a fast break.
They just ran. Changed the whole game. Bill Russell changed the whole game of basketball.
How about the guy who's running the break down the court? Cousy, Sam Jones, Casey Jones, Shoreman?
It's doing things that other teams have to learn to do.
They were ahead of their time with their break, their fast break, and you take a look at that team, they had a lot of athletic players that could have played in the 80s.
9, 9, 9.
In the playoffs, the 2001 Lakers with a windshield. Everyone they played, the bug. They went 15-1 to claim the second of 3 straight titles. Shaq and Kobe bickered but coexisted, and Zen master Phil Jackson made them believers in sharing the ball.
It was Phil Jackson's second year there, so they had figured out the triangle. They had figured out each other. They fought a little bit during the year, but they figured out that it didn't matter. For the first time in all these guys' lives, winning was the only thing that mattered.
Everybody was reaching for the same goals. We all wanted to win, and whatever it was going to take to get it done.
Then they started to win and win and win, and it was unbelievable. There was nobody even close to win those playoffs.
Well, they beat us. You know, I thought they were pretty special. They had a phenomenal coach.
We could be down, never sweats, never worries, never changes, just comes in and says, okay, we're going to win this game. As a matter of fact, I already made hotel reservations for the next series. This is what we got to do. It's simple, you little punks.
That Shaquille-Kobe combination before it totally disintegrated was fantastic to watch.
You had the inside game of Shaq, who still had the spring in his legs and the hunger and the fire to win the title. You had Kobe.
I don't think there's ever been a greater second guy than Kobe Bryant.
You can't be a team with just a great coach and a couple of stars, and they had Fisher and Robert Horry, Rick Fox.
I think the 2001 Lakers are arguably the best NBA team of all time.
8.
If ever a player owned one night, it was Irvin Johnson, who demonstrated exactly what magic is for the 1980 Lakers. L.A. was without Kareem Abdul-Jabbar for Game 6 of the Finals, but the rookie took over for the veteran and was mesmerizing.
The Lakers of 79-80 are one of the great coming-out parties for Magic Johnson.
He was Showtime personified.
The performance by Magic Johnson in the finals, Game 6, was the best individual performance I think there's ever been. He's a rookie. He actually should be a junior in college. Kareem goes down with an ankle injury.
NBA Finals, pressurized situation. He moves from point guard to center.
We did not think the Lakers had a chance to win the game.
A rookie comes out and plays center and scores 42 points, 15 rebounds, 7 assists, plays all 5 positions. It was just amazing.
Magic was in complete control. He was the best player on the floor by far that night.
For a rookie to do that, to play out of position and win the NBA championship was just phenomenal.
That's never been done. Prior to that, will never be done, I think, again.
When it comes to who's number one, everyone has an opinion. Some say it's the cat with the best stats, others say it's the one who did the most winning. So we're here to bring all debates to an ending. So stay tuned. I promise. We'll be back pretty soon.
The Sixers believed Moses could lead them out of the wilderness. In 1983, they were right. Moses Malone's commanding presence in the middle was all they had been missing. He was a perfect complement to Dr. J and a syncopated playoff prophet, too.
One thing we were always missing was a real inside presence.
The man was Moses Malone.
They had one of the best rebounders in the history of the game in Moses Malone.
Just an unstoppable energy force.
He brought them to the promised land.
I'll never forget, I asked Larry Bird one time, if you could pick 5 guys, and you get first pick, who you picking? He said Moses. He didn't even flinch, Moses. I said, why Moses? He said, I don't want to have to play against him, so he better be on my team.
I could not win the title without Doc.
Just teaming Dr. J with Moses was just an unstoppable tandem.
What can I tell you? It was sweeter than honey. The 76ers were always Dr. J team. It was never Moses Malone team.
having a guy like Moses around. He was a dominant center. I never played with a dominant center.
That was a team that had people who had been frustrated at different parts of their career, blocked and reaching championships, but that team wasn't going to be stopped.
That team was arguably the best ever, in my opinion.
After so many years of being so close, the city of Philadelphia had a tremendous outpouring of love for their 76ers. That's right, after 16 years, finally a parade for their NBA World Champions.
6-6.
The tip-off that Boston was going to win came as soon as Bill Russell started his pre-tip-off retching. Despite struggling with pre-game jitters, the relentless rebounder and spidery shot blocker led the 64 Celtics to their 6th consecutive title in a run of 8.
The 63-64 Celtics were remarkable in that it was a changing of the guard.
That was a year after Cousy retired.
Now it was Bill Russell's team, plain and simple, and Russell was one of the great winners of all time.
The guy was, well, he is the greatest defensive player of all time.
Their success started with him and somewhat ended with him.
They've had players that are very dedicated to the team. When you build that mystique, everybody understands that the team is much bigger than a person.
That's one of the things that Auerbach did so well. He could always find somebody to mix in as that 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th best player on the Celtics. That was his real genius.
Red was just an absolute genius. He just recognized potential talent.
We had the best offense and the best defense. I don't think there's any team in the history of the league that has had both.
The guys who've had to be second fiddle, John Havlicek and Sam Jones, have now stepped up to be backcourt stars. This is just the epitome of the 8-man deep interlocking pieces.
I think any one of those Celtic teams could beat anybody in the last 25 years and do it handily in a series.
5-5-5.
We were LA. We were Showtime, 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 Showtime.
5-5.
They'd pull alongside an exhausted opponent, smile and ask, "Tired yet?" And then the 84 Lakers would rocket away. Magic Johnson at the throttle, Pat Riley urging more speed. Nowhere was their style more apparent than against Boston.
There was no friendships. It was a real rivalry. Who was going to have home court advantage in the NBA Finals? Because we knew it was going to come down to us and the Lakers.
We were everything that they were not. Probably we were everything that they wanted to be, but we're not, and weren't perceived to be.
Here was this Laker team coming from the West Coast, Showtime, finally overcoming the Celtics in the Boston Garden.
We were too committed, we were too good, we were too prepared. It was our day.
Pat was the Michael Jordan of the coaches. He's the ultimate coach.
One sports writer put it best, I think they said, when the Celtics met the Lakers, it was the thoroughbreds against the Clydesdales.
Showtime was just kicked up another gear. This team had fun.
That was Magic now totally in charge. No question who the leader was.
He'd take off on the board. He'd be speed dribbling. You'd have Worthy and Scott Cooper filling the lane.
Showtime. He was the best, the livest, the funnest, just the greatest to watch because he was always exciting. You never knew what he would do. You just always knew he was going to do something exciting.
Magic was an absolutely unique basketball player, and he didn't have to do anything else but find a way to beat you.
Magic could dominate, not just play. He could dominate games.
Irving was one of the most competitive people I've ever been around. And not just on the basketball court, I mean in everything. He didn't like losing.
This team, they knew they could outscore anybody at any time. And they just dared you to try to run with them. And as we saw, nobody could.
The Celtics, Birds, all those years that you've had to put up with is over. Their dynasty is broken. The Lakers are the world champions this year.
If being number one is your life's dream occupation, then hopefully you've got a couple extra doses of dedication. Because the greats will tell you with no hesitation that you don't win it in the game, you win it in the preparation. Who's number one?
For 7 straight years, Wilt Chamberlain led the NBA in scoring but had no title to show for it. In '67, the Philly center concentrated his skills in other areas and got his ring. He averaged 24 points and 24 rebounds and was 3rd in the league in assists.
He probably could have scored his 50 again if he wanted to, but that was a situation where he learned to trust his teammates. When you need me to score, I'm here, but I'm going to control the boards, I'm going to control the defense, I'm going to do whatever you guys need me to do.
It was great to see Wilt do that. Nobody thought that Wilt, could bury his ego a little bit. He led the league all those years in scoring. What more is there to do offensively in basketball? And I think he wanted that championship badly.
1967 Philadelphia 76ers. If you could put them in a time machine and move them to the present, they would probably win the NBA title right now. And this is just a ridiculously talented team. Wilt Chamberlain could play anybody now. He's Shaq in his prime. Slightly different style, but just as good.
Wilt was just so awesome. I mean,
If Wilt had been mean, nobody could have done anything with Wilt, but he was just a mild-mannered kind of guy, which we all appreciated because, you know, a lot of guys could have gotten hurt.
Chamberlain and Jackson and Greer, that whole big group of guys was one of the most talented teams that I'd ever seen in the NBA.
Every once in a while, everything just clicks, and you just get the right players on the right team at the right time, and that was that 76ers team.
85-86 Celtics, had it only occurred to them to, hey, you know, we can win 70. We can break the record. They would have done it.
Well, the 86 Celtics did win 67, including 40 of 41 at home, and their 16th championship in just 40 years. Larry Bird was at the snarling zenith of his game. Kevin McHale was a post-up power, and scowling Robert Parrish patrolled the paint.
They were so good and had so much fun on and off the court. And they dribbled away games. They gave away games. Unfortunately, they would have been the first team to win the 70, not those Bulls teams. And they would have wiped the floor with that Bulls team, by any of the Michael teams. Forget about it.
Larry Bird, Kevin McHale, Robert Parrish, 3 top 50 players. That may have been the best passing team ever.
It's one of the best teams I ever played on.
Larry Bird was obviously the most important piece of the whole franchise, maybe the franchise's history.
Larry Bird was very competitive. Whatever it took to win, rebound, block out, throw an elbow, knock you down, hard foul you. You know, that's who he was.
He was a basketball genius. He'd be a step ahead, a thought ahead, play the game like a chess game.
You know, he's going to take your heart, and he was going to take it out. He's going to throw it on the floor, step on it, and he's going to love it.
They just really gelled together as a team. They knew how to pass. They knew how to give the ball to the other guy.
Who's going to guard McHale? That was always the #1 question. The answer, nobody.
They were high-flying. They were fun. Just going to practice to watch that team was a thrill because the practices were great. Mention of the word Celtics would raise the hair on the back of our neck.
85-86 Celtics? Well, I will never say anything good about the Celtics. I don't like them, so...
2-2-2-2.
Over 3 months and 2 calendar years, the Lakers won 33 straight, battering the old record by 11 before losing in January of 1972. Their backcourt of old pros Jerry West and Gail Goodrich, good for 50 a game. And Wilt, well, he pretty much took care of everything else.
In the playoffs, every game is important. But when you're on a 33-game winning streak, that means you're coming to somebody else's house, no matter how good they are, you're telling them, it ain't going to happen, we're not losing.
33 straight games is just phenomenal.
Wilt came out to the coast, and what a triumvirate that is. Just about as great a 3-man team as you'll ever see.
The secret to the team was Wilt. Sharman talked him into being a rebounder and a defensive player, and that was the backbone of the team.
You had Chamberlain, who was grabbing the rebounds, playing defense, blocking shots, do whatever it took to win.
That was an awesome team because obviously you had Wilt Chamberlain in the middle, but a great backcourt with Jerry West and Gail Goodrich.
Jerry West and Gail Goodrich, they really played as a team.
Jerry West had that killer instinct in him. I mean, this guy come to beat you every night.
For the three of them to mesh, to put all egos and mentality aside, for them to play together, to move the ball around, and to play off all their strength, and they were just one of the great teams you'll ever see in any sport.
This team is very special. I don't know how you could possibly think a team could win 33 games in a row in this year. It'll never happen again.
In sports, the most difficult task that you can ask someone to do is to come up with the answer to who's number 2. You could ask the kid from Jeopardy and he wouldn't have a clue. Because most don't care, they don't care to know. Which is exactly the reason we came up with the show. So who's number 1?
Welcome back to Who's Number 1 and the 20 greatest NBA teams of all time. Let's recap. The 1992 USA Olympic team.
1990.
The 77-78 Washington Bullets.
8.
The 57-58 St. Louis Hawks.
70.
The 93-94 Houston Rockets.
60.
The 76-77 Portland Trailblazers.
15.
The 1952-53 Minneapolis Lakers.
14.
The 1970-71 Milwaukee Bucks.
13.
The 89-90 Detroit Pistons.
12.
The 1969-70 New York Knicks.
11.
The 91-92 Chicago Bulls.
10.
The 1960-61 Boston Celtics.
9.
The 2000-2001 Los Angeles Lakers.
8.
The 79-80 Los Angeles Lakers.
7.
The 82-83 Philadelphia 76ers.
6.
The 63-64 Boston Celtics.
5.
The 84-85 Los Angeles Lakers.
4.
The 66-67 Philadelphia 76ers.
3.
The 85-86 Boston Celtics.
2.
The 71-72 LA Lakers.
So who's number one all-time, the greatest NBA team ever? Well, you'll recognize the faces even though they've moved on to other places. But when they were together, they were all but unbeatable.
1.
The running of the Bulls rampaged on, the 96 squad launching the second three-peat of the decade for Chicago. Michael Jordan was, well, Michael Jordan. Scottie Pippen rode shotgun, Dennis Rodman owned the boards, and Phil Jackson's reputation swelled.
1.
Really, from the first game, the media in Chicago was speculating, could this team win 70 games?
That was an incredible team when you consider that it was Michael Jordan and Scottie Pippen and who else?
You don't need the 5 greatest players of all time. You need a couple of the greatest. You need people to do their roles. You need a madman like Dennis Rodman.
I made money being bad, doing the things that they couldn't do.
They accomplished so much in that season that you look at their role players, Michael had a bad night, they still won. And there was a time where if Michael had a bad night, you were sure to win that game. But I think that's just a testament of his will on his teammates to win.
That was a very dedicated team. It just got to the point to where we started seeing all these records that we had an opportunity to break.
The focus of the Bulls, in particular Jordan and Pippen, was remarkable. And we were starting to suggest early in the year they could win more than 70 games. The fact that they carried that through and only lost 10 games, stunning. It'll never be matched.
It was about establishing your place in history. And 72 wins, I think, wow.
We've heard recently where guys like Rasheed Wallace, Vince Carter, Tracy McGrady have said, nobody pushes it 110% every single night. But that team had the drive to go out there every single night, knowing they were going to get the best from the opponent. And it's just amazing.
Was it the best team ever? Well, I don't know. If you got Michael Jordan on it, almost any team would be the best team ever with him on it.
Nobody's won more. You got to make a big deal out of it. I think anytime you are the best at anything, it's a big deal. I mean, to win 72 games in the NBA is a remarkable feat.
Michael Jordan! I hope I get the chance to come back and represent the city of Chicago and my family and bring a fifth title back to Chicago.
And, it's been a wild, crazy ride.
All right, so you've seen the dynasties and the one-season wonders, the old established firms that almost always seem to be contending, and those that caught the fast track to success. Time now to see how our list is sitting with our resident second-guessers. That would be Mike Gravity-Bound Greenberg and Mike Moving Pick Golick. Fellas.
All right, now permit me, if you will, to take the beginning of this one. Because I speak from experience.
Yes, you do.
I covered this team. I saw probably 75 of the 82 games that this team played. The number one Chicago Bulls, the 72-win team. They were a circus. They were the most entertaining team you could ever be around. Jordan was unbelievable. Rodman was from another planet. Phil is Phil. Scottie is Scottie. The teams from the 80s that almost immediately preceded them, the Fo Sixers, right, the great Laker and Celtic teams, would have wiped the floor with the 72-win Bulls. That was the product of a watered-down NBA in the late 90s, and the fact that that team played hard every night because Michael made them do so, and no one else did. They played defense when no one else did. On a Tuesday night in New Jersey, Michael Jordan made sure that team played like it was Game 7 of the NBA Finals. They were a very good team. What they accomplished was enormous, and they deserve credit. Were they the best NBA team of all time? They were not even close.
I would agree with you on that. I just start looking down the list and see 4 of the 85-86 Celtics immediately put that team ahead of them. You're right. Those teams from the 80s would have absolutely wiped the floor with the Chicago Bulls of the 90s when they won.
And that's only the second greatest injustice of this list. The greatest injustice is putting those Fo Sixers as low as they are. Yeah. Moses Malone, Dr. J, Mo Cheeks, Andrew Toney, and that group. Mike, that was the best basketball team I ever saw. Now, I'm not old enough to go back to the Celtics of the 60s, but I saw all those teams in the 80s. I saw all those teams in the 90s. I saw the Lakers winning with Shaq and Kobe. The Fo Sixers with Mo, Doc, and company for that 1 year were the best team in basketball that I've ever seen.
Let me go away here that I don't know if how much you'll want to follow this. What are we talking about here? Best NBA teams. Are we talking about best teams or best collection of talent?
Right.
Because I look at 13th on the list. I look at those 69-70 Knicks. Give me the lineup.
You got Willis Reed as the center, Dave DeBusschere, Bill Bradley, Walt Frazier, Dick Barnett.
In an era of today, when you see New England Patriots, Detroit Pistons, Florida Marlins winning championships as a team, you go to this team, a collection of players who came together, played smart ball, played tough ball, and played team ball. I want to give them more respect than 13th. Even though it wasn't the greatest collection of great NBA players, they played so well as a team, I want to move them up the list.
Well, and it's probably a lot of validity in that, because if you're going to say would that team have beaten some of the others, they beat teams that would seem to have had better talent. That's what you're talking about. They were greater than the sum of their parts. They were also probably the most beloved individual championship team in New York sports history for that reason. Plus, you have Willis walking out on the court in Game 7. Right. You have a lot of things that surround that. So I agree with you. They deserve, from a respect standpoint, but were they the greatest? Probably not. No. The Bulls certainly were not. If I had to pick it, I would go the Fo Sixers number 1. I would agree. I would go Kareem's great Laker teams 2 and Larry Bird's great Celtic teams 3, with Jordan and those 96 Bulls a distant 4.
I might switch to 2 and 3, but it's splitting hairs right now. Let me go one more with you. The Olympic Dream Team. Now, this was a great collection of players. I understand that. But are we supposed to compare them when they beat Angola? I mean, I don't know. You know, is that a little bit of a reach? We're putting an all-star team together and saying this is one of the greatest teams ever, and they wiped out, every bad country there is out there.
I don't have a problem putting that team on the list for the following reason. That team was historic, and it was the greatest collection of individual talent in the history of sports. Yeah. In the history of any sport as we know it, that was the greatest collection of talent.
We always don't see that winning, though, all the time. Here you did, because they played awful countries.
They were so dominant. That was the best ever, and to do it once was fun. The tragedy is that it begot all of the garbage that we've had to live through since. And if they would start sending the college players back to the Olympics, we'd all be the better for it. To do it once was worth doing, and I don't have a problem putting them on the list, because that was, as a unique historical event, the greatest collection of talent in the history of sports.
And another significant reason for it is what it did to international play. It made international players step up and realize they needed to improve their game fundamentally and so on, and that certainly happened over the years.
No question about it. That collection was terrific. I don't mind them on the list. Bulls number 1, that's a joke.
And that'll do it for this edition of Who's Number 1. Thanks for joining us for ESPN Classic's ranking of the 20 best NBA teams. We will be back to continue our countdown of the teams, the athletes, and the events that have shaped our world of sports. Until then, I'm Trey Wingo. Let the debating begin.